Iran just got hit. The Fujairah oil terminal, a massive strategic hub in the UAE, struck by a swarm of suicide drones at 2 a.m. local time. And within hours, President Trump retaliated with the most aggressive naval directive in half a century. Ladies and gentlemen, the Strait of Hormuz has officially transitioned from a diplomatic stalemate to an active, kinetic kill zone. And what's unfolding right now is something the Pentagon didn't expect for another 6 months. We are no longer talking about harassment or shadow wars. We are talking about 800 commercial vessels, carrying 20% of the world's petroleum, effectively held hostage in a corridor narrower than the distance between New York and Philadelphia. Donald Trump, Secretary Pete Hegseth, and the supreme leader in Tehran have all crossed the Rubicon. The era of strategic patience is dead. Hit subscribe right now if you want the unfiltered truth about American power and Middle East geopolitics. We cover what the mainstream media is too afraid to touch every single day. Turn on notifications so you never miss when we expose the next phase of this escalation. Do it now. Here's the sequence. Yesterday at 11:15 a.m. Eastern, the White House announced the launch of Project Freedom, a high-stakes military operation to escort 800 stranded tankers out of the Persian Gulf. By 3 p.m., the first 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers entered the strait. This wasn't a routine freedom of navigation exercise. This was a direct challenge to the Iranian double blockade strategy. The Pentagon confirmed this morning that U.S. ships were forced to engage 6 Iranian fast attack craft that attempted to swarm the lead tanker. Now, Tehran had already warned that any U.S. military guidance of commercial ships would trigger a total closure of the strait. That warning? It just got cashed in. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard is currently deploying advanced sea mines and anti-ship cruise batteries along the Musandam Peninsula. But here's where it gets bigger than just a naval skirmish. See, Iran didn't just target the ships. There are confirmed reports of 15 ballistic missiles striking the UAE's Fujairah refinery complex, cyber attacks knocking out the port of Jebel Ali's automated crane systems in Dubai, Houthi rebels launching long-range drones toward Aramco facilities in Saudi Arabia, Hezbollah mobilization along the Orange Line in southern Lebanon. Let that sink in. $2.4 trillion in global trade, frozen in a matter of hours. 60% of the world's spare oil capacity compromised. And the International Energy Agency just issued an emergency alert demanding a coordinated release of global reserves. This isn't a regional border dispute anymore. This is a systemic collapse of the global energy supply chain, and Iran is making sure the entire Western economy feels the heat of the fire they just started. Now, you might be asking, why would Iran take such a seemingly irrational action? Why strike the UAE refineries when you're already under a U.S. blockade? Why risk a direct war with 3 American carrier strike groups? Because Iran isn't fighting to win a conventional naval battle. Iran is fighting to destroy the petrodollar and force a total U.S. withdrawal from the region through economic exhaustion. When the UAE refinery went up in flames, understand the context. This was a direct strike at the heart of the Project Freedom logistical chain. Iran lost its ability to export oil due to Trump's sanctions, so they decided if they can't sell oil, no one can. The IRGC command immediately went on state television declaring, "If the strait is not for us, it is for no one." So when the Pentagon spokesperson says they are monitoring the situation, that tells you everything. The new power center in Tehran, led by the most hardline faction of the Guard, is running the show. The old mechanism of back-channel diplomacy through Oman is dead, and Iran has decided this is their Karbala moment, a final desperate stand against a superior force to trigger a global crisis. Now here's the part no one in Washington, D.C. wants to talk about. Secretary Pete Hegseth told the press that the U.S. Navy could clear the Strait of Hormuz and secure Project Freedom within 72 hours. But according to the Congressional Research Service's own assessment, the current U.S. minesweeping deployment in the Gulf is designed for low-intensity harassment, not a saturation of advanced acoustic and magnetic sea mines. That's a 14-day gap between political promises of safe passage and the logistical reality of clearing the world's most dangerous waterway. And already on day 1, here's what's happened. 1. The USS Carney was forced to expend $40 million in interceptors against $20,000 drones, a depletion rate the Navy cannot sustain. 2. Lloyd's of London has suspended all insurance for ships in the Project Freedom convoy, according to the Wall Street Journal. 3. The Pentagon admitted they lacked the mine-hunting assets required to clear the deeper channels of the strait. 4. Reuters is reporting that at least 3 commercial tankers have ignored U.S. orders and turned back, citing a lack of confidence in American protection. The Washington Post is now reporting that senior officials are concerned the U.S. Navy is spread too thin to protect 800 targets simultaneously. They're failing in too many places, too fast and too unpredictably, and the Pentagon simply can't protect every hull in the water. This was supposed to be absolute deterrence. That's the exact phrase a senior defense official used with Fox News last week. But Tehran turned it into a humiliating display of American overextension. Let's zoom out, because this stopped being a U.S.-Iran spat about 12 hours ago. Israel has officially moved its F-35 squadrons to high alert after the strike on the UAE. Sources in Tel Aviv indicate the IDF is preparing for preemptive surgical strikes on Iranian launch sites. Saudi Arabia is moving its 4th Armored Division toward the eastern provinces. And the Saudi foreign minister just said, "Any attack on regional energy is an attack on the sovereignty of the kingdom." That's 5 major nations now actively positioning for a regional firestorm. 5. And China just suspended all non-essential maritime trade through the Indian Ocean. Russia has moved its Mediterranean fleet toward the Suez Canal. Over 400 international flights have been canceled across the Middle East and North Africa. British Petroleum suspended all operations in the Gulf until June 1st. The European Union is scrambling to figure out their winter heating problem now that both the Qatari LNG routes and the Saudi pipelines are compromised. WTI crude just touched $122 a barrel and is climbing. Natural gas spiked to a record $9.50, a 45% jump in a single session. The euro jumped against the dollar, a sign that hot money is fleeing American-linked assets as the risk of a forever war becomes a reality. The global dominoes are falling, and the first one was tipped in the Strait of Hormuz. The question remains, what does Donald Trump do next? The president is trapped between his promise to end endless wars and his promise to keep the American economy dominant. If he retreats, Project Freedom becomes a historic embarrassment. If he strikes the Iranian mainland, he enters the exact conflict he campaigned against. The Wall Street Journal reports that the White House is currently reviewing Target Package Delta, a list of 52 sites inside Iran, including drone factories and port infrastructure. But every move has a countermove. Iran's proxies in Iraq have already fired rockets at U.S. bases in Al-Assad, signaling that a strike on Tehran will set the entire Middle East on fire. Trump is at a crossroads. He can either order a full-scale air campaign to decapitate the IRGC's naval capability, or he can watch as 800 ships sit idle, slowly strangling the global economy. There is no middle ground anymore. The kill zone is set. Here is the bottom line. The launch of Project Freedom was intended to show American resolve, but it has instead exposed the vulnerability of a global economy built on a single, narrow choke point. Iran has successfully called the American bluff. They have proven that they don't need to win a war. They only need to make the peace too expensive to maintain. Whether you support the president's bold move or fear the consequences, one thing is certain. The world you woke up to yesterday is gone. The cost of gas, the price of food, and the safety of our troops are now tied to a few miles of water in the Persian Gulf. We will be tracking every satellite move, every carrier deployment, and every strike in real time. What do you think? Is Project Freedom the right move to save the economy, or is it a one-way ticket to World War III? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. Don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who needs to know what's really happening behind the headlines.